All right, everyone. So our homework for this week is reaction animation. So taking that rig and just having it react to something. And unfortunately, all my examples of reactions are from older classes from way long time ago, and so the videos are not reliable on our school computers. I don't know if we'll have the codecs for them. So I'm going to record some information about this now. But in terms of the assignment, you can go for whichever type of reaction you want. Really cartooned, really naturalistic. You can make some props for them to react to or not. I'm going to show you examples of people not having any, there's nothing to react to, but we see them reacting anyways. And I'm going to have a few notes about other stuff later, but use the whole body. That's a very, very important thing. Um, but I'm going to start off with a couple of like in the real world examples of reactions. And these are all from 2D because that's just what I have. So we're just going to look at that real quick. So first up we have, I'm try and get these all to play here. The other reason I like to do this at home is because I can frame through the animation, which is very important in animation. So all right, here, everyone is familiar with Aladdin. So
Oh, you sure showed me. Now, about my 3 wishes.
Dost mine ears deceive me? 3? You are down by 1, boy!
No, I never actually wished to get out of the cave. You did that on your own.
Well, I feel sheepish.
All right, you bad boy, but no more freebies.
Fair deal?
all right, so I'm sure all of you have seen this scene before, but obviously this I like this as an example because it's very exaggerated and it's like a multi-step reaction. So let's see, Aladdin calls him honest nonsense. So first thing is what he was going to react as. He had a retort in mind, which obviously melts into his, you know, um, disappointment that he did actually get someone took advantage of him, but there's a really long pause here. So, and because it's 2D, it's like our like legit pause, and then we get um, and one of the cool things about this, it's a little bit more doable in 2D than 3D, but the hand staying almost exactly the same. So his hand pointing, this doesn't move, right? Whereas this all like melts. Now, in 3D, you would probably have to like tilt the arm a little bit and have a little bit of a reaction because separating out joints like that doesn't really work in 3D. It won't work in terms of the rig because literally, if you have FK arms, if you move the shoulders from here, to there, like, any motion with the body is going to move this hand. But also 3D is less abstracted from reality, right? This is very abstracted from reality, 3D less so. So you have to have some bit of motion, but you can still keep the arm up there. Maybe it just comes closer to the body and, the hand, the angle changes. But the arm can drop. Obviously, you guys don't have a draw, but the head can drop or it can fly backwards. The shoulders can drop. The knees can buckle in together. There are things you can do that would be not exactly this, but give the same vibe. So there's the shock, right? And then, recovery because he's the genie. So smooth recovery and kind of like being like, yep, 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 you're right, you're right. Um, and then of course, something we can't do, which is distracting him into this. But I also like to show this because it is multiple steps, right? It's multiple steps of a reaction. 1, 2, 3, 4. So your reaction isn't necessarily just one motion, right? You have to like think of different motions you can have. Let's see, I'm trying to remember if there's another good reaction here. I mean, technically speaking, anything is a reaction, right? Like if acting is reacting, basically. So every time the genie does something, Aladdin reacts to it. Aladdin's a very reactive character, right? There we go. So now he's checking out his new costume or whatever. So technically speaking, reactions can come from anywhere, but we're looking for like for this assignment, we're looking for like the bigger things. Another good one, also in animation, you can see I've got a couple of live action ones here. If we had like face stuff going on, we'd be looking at those. We've got Disney's Robin Hood, but Friar Tuck has a great reaction to the Sheriff of Nottingham. So just to set this up, this is like, if in case you haven't seen this is most of the way through the movie. Lots of people are already in jail for not paying their taxes because Prince John is mean, and the sheriff comes in and he takes the stuff that's given for the poor box, and he's basically just robbing the church, and so Friar Tuck has some
Take it
feelings.
easy, Friar. I'm just doing my duty.
Collecting taxes for that arrogant, greedy, ruthless, no good Prince John?
Listen, Friar, you're mighty preachy, and you gonna preach your neck right into a hangman's noose.
Get out of my church! Ow! 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 Ow!
I've always appreciated this. So there's actually, and again, there's a few different steps to this reaction. And normally when I think of this scene, I think of this part right here where he swings his arms around, like, get out of my church, like just like absolutely losing it, and the wild flailing of the arms, which is very indicative of this like 70s and 80s animation at the studio. If any of you have watched Don Bluth stuff with like American Tail, Secret of Nim, he probably had something to do with the staging of this scene. So that's what I think of. I think of the big, motions there. There's a part before it actually where he's reacting to getting his, that he's reacting to his someone sticking their hand in their face, and again, we don't have access to facial features right now, which is a feature, not a bug for you guys. We want to focus on the body. So what else is going on here? Well, Friar Tuck, who has been leaning forward in the previous scene, right? Like leaning into this argument, yelling at him. All his linear directions are, leaning in this way. And, the sheriff gets in his face, and so he leans backwards. Right, so now, and then he even starts the shot leaning backwards, and then he stretches up further, and you can see his hands leaning, like moving up. So that line goes from like straighter to like way back. So you can take your character that doesn't have a face, and if you lean them back properly and tilt their head back and move their arms forward, you can get that same like, indignant look. Also, if you kind of gently curl the hands a little bit. And then you've got the, the blow up. But then there's the third part, which is, screaming at it. And then there's the action you take afterwards, which in this case is throwing him out in just the most lovely squash and stretch animation you ever did see. And then I love the little deacon impersonating him afterwards. So there's, again, multiple steps to your reaction. And if you want the reaction to read, we do need a little bit of before and after. We don't need a whole novella, right? We don't have a lot of time. You only have 1 week in this, so don't do too much. All right. And then last up, we have, this is probably going to go a little bit long, but it's a lovely little Chuck Jones animation. I don't know if this is technically Looney Tunes, but it's Warner Brothers, and I'm sure some of you have seen this before. It's the one with the frog. So I'm gonna play it from when he finds it. And again, this is a Looney Tunes thing, so I'm curious. Unfortunately, we're not together, but I always find everyone's reaction to this reaction curious.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire. Baby, my heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey, honey, you lose me, then you'll be left alone. Oh, baby, telephone and tell me I'm your own.
Right, so I do apologize that sound might be in your head. But I'll never not appreciate Chuck Jones's restraint here in a franchise that is usually just boundless with energy. You know, we have this absurd scenario of a dancing frog with a top hat, and the dude's reaction is to just blink and look at the camera. Like, it's brilliant. And um there are ways to do this kind of reserved sort of thing in 3D. It's a little bit different than in 2D because in 2D you literally don't draw anything like new, and then the eyes are on a separate layer, so that all you have to do is um, I can't tell if this is moving forward. There we go. Blink. And then the only other thing moving is his brow, is his unibrow. So it's a little bit different in 3D. You would need a little bit of general motion going on, but the major motion would be the eyes, blinking. You can also do a head turn. So for you guys without the facial features, how would you get some sort of subtle reaction? It can never be as subtle as this, but you could do something with a head turn and back, or you could do something with the hand coming up to the mouth, right? So that there are ways to do that, and even again when let's see, where is it? Oh, I'm surprised this is holding up as well as it can, given that I'm recording the screen at the same time. I always love that pose. Another sly look, the hands coming together, scheming hands, thinking hands, more scheming hands. So there are still that Grinch grin sells a lot of this, but of course it doesn't work without the hands. Now I want to make sure we know what this is called. Oh, it's a Merry Melody. Excuse me, it's not a Looney Tune. It's a Merry Melody, and it's called One Froggy Evening. Yeah. So, and in case you ever wanted to look it up, I'm sure it's somewhere. But yeah, we expect a certain type of animation for Looney Tunes. There you go, Chuck Jones. And I'm sure it's late. I'm sure, yeah, he does get more animated later, but his first reaction is to be subtle, and I think that's because if I had to jump into the mind of Chuck Jones for a moment, I think it's because this is so absurd. If he runs around screaming, it undercuts how absurd this is. So that's why it's the right thing to do is to be quiet. If everything's loud, nothing is. So if a frog is grabbing a top hat and cane out of nowhere after being stuck in a building for 80 years, this is the only appropriate reaction. Quiet, so that this still feels loud. And then I think the guy gets a little bit louder and more animated as this frog doesn't dance. All right, so those are my sort of more professional examples of whatchamacallits, of reactions. I do have a few student examples. I have a few caveats that go with those. Number one, their rig had a face on it, which was because number two, this was a more advanced class. So these guys had already had a full semester of an animation class, and then they took what was called character animation. And number three, these are students from a film school. So their animations are going to have like a beginning, middle, and end in a whole story. Like they're a little bit longer than I would expect from you guys, because they had more practice with everything ahead of time. They had film training and narrative training, and all the rest of it. But if we just look at the middle portions of their stuff and look at the reactions, you'll see why I show these. All right, so let's see. Actually, let's start with Ryan's. And I'm always walking in, or I'm always opening these in QuickTime because I can frame through them. Like I can press the arrow keys. Now, This has a lot of things you guys should not do. It has a walk cycle. Don't do a walk cycle. We're not doing walk cycles till later. They're very, very hard. They take lots and lots of time. It's a great setup for this gag, so I'm going to show it, but like no walk cycles, please. Please, 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 please. Um, so there's actually two different reactions in this, right? Obviously, there's the reaction to the looks like an earthquake or something falling or something, and then there's the reaction to whatever is going on there. And obviously, the face plays a huge role in this. I'd say the first reaction works well, even if you don't have the face. It's a great face that he puts on, because there's like this, yeah, like that's a great face, but the head is ducking, the shoulders are up, the hands are like in that sort of crouchy position. I know hands can't actually crouch, but that's what they feel like to me. And so, and also, by the way, the camera shakes first. Let's see, where to go? Like it shakes for a few frames before he really reacts, because you need one thing to happen, then the other. And he ducks right away, knees bent, arms up, right? We take our arms to, protect our face, knees bent, to make ourselves smaller. We crouch down, head is, going beneath the shoulders, all to protect our head and torso. Everything we do if we're scared is to protect our head and torso. And then as it settles down, he looks around in one direction and then relaxes once it stops. So there's, the knees unbend a little, the arms come down a lot. Looking around. And what's funny is the camera kind of changes from a neutral camera to like almost like a point of view of whatever he's staring at, because we're above the character now. We're above Norman. That's the name of the rig, is Norman. So we're above Norman and acting almost like we're the monster looking down at him. Almost. I know his eye line is a little bit different, but I love the hands right here. They're not neutral. They're relaxed. Foot planted. His weight is between these 2 feet, so his knees are both bent a little. Torso is turned. Every joint on this character is engaged. There's nothing that's neutral. The whole back is twisted right there. And then anticipation, go down before you go up. The tremble in the draw is brilliant. And the leaning backwards, stretching the back up a little bit. Norman had a very, as a rig, had a very expressive face, which everyone kind of got into. But because he spent so much time in the face, which is wonderfully done, the body does kind of get ignored here. I mean, it's cool. It's a good pose. Like I pick any one frame and it's like, okay, those are good hands. This is good back, stuff. But when we watch it, the hips just kind of slide back a little bit. The arms kind of slide to the side a little bit. And that's because the time was all spent up here, and it's really well done, but you need to sell stuff on the body. So that's one reason why I think, oh, you guys can, just have the body there and it'll help help you focus in on that. But all parts are engaged, and I'm pretty sure I say that very explicitly in here. Hips, spine, shoulders, neck, arms, head, legs. I should have said fingers, frankly. Everything should be engaged. And also no running and walking. No going from sitting to standing, please. It takes so much time to do that, so much more time than you would expect. Here's one that's using more of the body. And I opened that in the wrong software, so I can't frame through it. For the record, I don't think she modeled a puppy dog for this assignment. In fact, I know she didn't. She just had one lying around or bought one from somewhere. So, I think everyone, when they had doors in this assignment, it's like cubes with a cube and a sphere. So you can just model something quick if you want someone to open a door, which was a very common gag, by the way. People opening doors and getting either scared or curious or disgusted or happy about what was on the other side. Very common. But don't spend a lot of time modeling props because that's not what matters. So the bounciness of this action, the up, down, up, down, up, down, that sells a lot of the energy as much as the face. And we've also got the inquisitiveness, like, what's going on, guys? Like slow. And also moves down before moving up. And then it's the up, down, up, down, up, down. And the other part of the bounciness comes from the fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow. It's not evenly paced, the bouncing around. So, and the giddy little hands together. And again, I think this is also one of the only happier reactions I get. Usually it's like scared or disgusted or something. So it's nice to see like a more positive reaction. The last one is definitely, it's mostly based on the face. But I want to show it because A, it's good, and B, it shows a problem with IK arms because we talked about this last week a little bit. So I kind of wanted to show an example. So this assignment, as it was given to them, they could choose whether to be far away or up close. Now, for you guys, that doesn't really make any sense. Your character does not have a face, so being this close to the character, you're going to have to go for a long shot. And this person also included a long shot with a different camera, just because I forget why. It's been a long time. This is like, I don't know, 15 years old. But there's a couple of things to note. One is this is not the intended camera. So it doesn't matter if it's interesting. It doesn't matter that his feet don't do anything except when the camera's looking down on it. And then once you get here, feet don't do anything, hips don't do anything. They don't need to. We're not looking at that. So, choose a camera angle and make it look good from that perspective. It doesn't have to look good from all perspectives. You can see also that he uses the camera to it's looking ahead and looking down. Now the arms do move a lot, even though we don't see them much because the shoulders have to move. So we definitely need to see the arms there, and then they swing around like that. But all we're seeing is from this view. But this is mostly in the face, except for just the activity of the arms coming up this way. Now, one reason I like to show is that once you guys do get to, characters with faces, this is pretty good work with the brow. And rolling the eyes around, and he's also thinking about that. For you guys, it's a matter of tilting the head in various directions. So this can still look inquisitive even without brows. Obviously, you look down if you're looking for something, and then, there we go. Head low because you're sulking. Head rolling around if you're annoyed. But the other reason I wanted to show this is to show people were asking where to use FK and where to use IK. And generally speaking, I say IK for feet and FK for arms. And this is a good example of why you do not use IK for arms. This guy did. He had IK locators on his hands so that as they're swinging, and it made kind of doing the arm swing motions for the animation easier, but he just had to place a locator here, and then this got figured out. But And it works well for here. You know, the arms coming out broadly, we don't even really see them that much. But when you get to the motion where they're swinging around, that makes no sense. Nobody moves like that, right? When it comes up like this and does that, nobody's arms move like that. What technically needs to happen is, here, let me swing around in my seat for a second. They shouldn't windmill up like this. They needed to be closer to the body and then like expand out, and he doesn't have that kind of control because all he's doing is moving this anchor point. He can't put the elbow like down here and close to the body. Like there's a lot of stuff you can't do with the IK in the arms. And so we leave them as FK. And is that annoying and it requires you to like do a little bit more work? Yes, but it gives you the flexibility that is necessary to animate with the arms. So for the most part in this class, unless you've got a weird exception like the character sitting and swinging their feet or playing piano, something like that, for the most part, IK feet, FK arms, which is what your rig defaults to. So you couldn't change it unless you're not going to accidentally have IK arms, right? You'd have to purposely make them that way. And I recommend you don't. All right. So I know these are not exactly like our assignment or our rig. It's just we don't have we've never done this assignment with this class before. But again, it's kind of a free-for-all. You can have them react however they want to whatever you want. Props or no props, do not spend much time on them, right? Just little boxes or whatever. You don't need a lot. Don't have the character sitting or crouching or anything really. We're not there yet. That takes a lot of time. You're going to spend so much time getting them to sit down and then have them react. And even worse would be transitioning from sitting to standing or standing to sitting or falling down. I mean, even falling down, that's going to take a lot. So be careful. Do not have them walk or run into the scene. We're not there yet. Those examples I just showed you, those students had a lot more practice with this. And yeah, there's no face. We're forcing you to think about the face, forcing you guys to think about the body. I want to see if I can find. There we go. So this link is up in the announcements, and I'll maybe put up a new one so you don't have to go looking around. This is the rig we've been working with, Ultimate Pony. However, if for some reason this rig does not strike your fancy and you're thinking, ugh, what do I do? There is also this dude. So someone that's a bit squarer, a bit chunkier, you know, bigger chest. Now, I believe it's mostly all the same controls. So everything we've been learning in terms of technically, it'll all still be there. All the, you know, foot controls have all the same things on them. But it will move a bit differently, and you don't have any practice in that. Now, if you're feeling very, very comfortable with your animation and you want to branch out at any point for the rest of the semester, we're using these biped rigs. And if you get tired of this one, you may try this one, but it will deform differently than you're used to, and know that you are making things harder for yourself. So if you make that choice and then I say, oh, this wasn't as good as your previous animation, I don't want to hear, oh, well, it was a new rig. No, you chose this. Please do not use these. They're very different. They're cute, but like they're not what we're doing. All right. I believe that's it. So, yep. We're going to do something different during class today, but for today, this is the information on reactions.